So the railing here is made out of 1x2s, and it was whole at time of occupation. But in order to get all of our stuff out of the actual loft, I had to bring, you know. So this doesn't look great. If you're new to the project, a big warm welcome. If you're a tough old root, then welcome back. Today is the long-awaited inside tour of our unfinished mountaintop off-grid tiny house. So before we go in, there's a couple things that's important to know, right? I mean, so this is a tiny house. It is really, really small. It's 100% my own design, and it's not finished. However, there are 8 spaces in it, so 8 different kind of rooms and 3 different levels. So it is going to be hard to film with our Mickey Mouse sort of camera operation here, but I'm going to do the best that I can. And I can tell you, we lived in this for an extended period of time, unfinished. And the design is solid. The unfinished part is kind of a bummer, but the design is solid. So the first room we're going to go into is the living room. So, hey, let's stop talking and go on in the dang house, right? Come on. So the first room that you come into is the living room, right? This room is 8 feet by 12 feet. That is the floor plan size. One of the most important things I wanted that I've seen in a lot of different tiny houses, they either take it way too far or they don't do enough, is head height, which is something I wanted to incorporate in our design. It was very, very crucial to me, right? You need to be able to lift your hands in all of the active spaces, right? Living room, kitchen, etc. A big boy can touch the actual ceiling, but most people can't. So that was crucial to me. So 8 feet by 12 feet living room. So we're going to do all of the large spaces first because there's a couple hidden kind of nooks, right? I mean, they aren't technically hidden because a smart man can look and see, hey, there's probably something there, but most of them are not obvious. So from the living room over here, move this. This is the bathroom. It's also where I'm storing all of my insulation and my different wiring stuff because this is a work in progress. It is 4 feet by 5 feet. A 4 by 5 bathroom space. So obviously it's not beautiful. This is the storage area. But there again, the exact same ceiling height, the exact same idea. This is what I would consider an active space. So for me, when I design this, there is active and inactive spaces, right? That may come up later. So, bathroom, right? Hey. Even got a halvesy door here. Rock and roll. So we lived in this during the winter, right? And while it was not part of the design, we were able to fit a wood stove in here. And this is where it went through the wall. This is a triple wall pipe, and this corner was our wood stove heating. That still allowed enough sitting room and walking area for a 3-person family. So wood stove was here. My recliner was right here, and then a couch was over there, along with the bathroom setup, and it really worked out well for us. So the last active space on the first level is literally just a staircase room, right? These steps right here are not how I pictured them in my mind. The eventual steps, the final steps will be much, much different. They will actually have a curve to them. But either way, we just made do with what we could. All of this was making do with what we could and what we could manage and what we could afford. But from here, we go into what was the library and the staircase room. Whilst these 3 shelves were not enough to house our entire book collection, it was a great way to make use of this space. So we have the staircase, we have the books here, and we had plenty enough room to navigate through them. There is another loft above me, one of the inactive spaces. So this area has extraordinary head height, right? I mean, the loft is 8 feet, and then right here, you can go up a solid 12. From here, we go up the steps to the second level. One of the things I wanted to incorporate into my design that I didn't have the funds for. I didn't have the funds or the manpower, but it was absolutely important to me, was a greenhouse inside of the actual house. In the original plan, the all-out, we have tons of money plan, from here over was going to be an entire glass wall with a glass ceiling. However, because of funds and other such whatevers, I went with 2 large windows facing perfectly south. I actually, right before I started building this house, I twisted the entire structure slightly so that this would be true south. And right here, this little corner shelf is where we started all of our seeds for our garden. You know, in lieu of an actual greenhouse, a couple big windows pointing the correct direction can be almost as good. From the sunroom, we come to the kitchen. The kitchen is 4 by 8. It's big enough for a full-size window. We had our propane stove, countertop, sink, and actually everything still works, man. I mean, it's still a turnkey house. We just aren't in it right now. So yeah, water works. The stove works. This is a double feed, you know, kind of a gravity ceramic filter set. The water here is 100% fine, but it made me feel better to run it through something. Kitchen, there again, you can't touch the roof here. But head height in all of the active spaces. I will continue to say that because that really defines how you design a house, right? Where are you going to be standing? Where are you going to be active? I'm not saying everyone cooks like this, but you do not want a low ceiling somewhere where you're going to be active. And the kitchen is by far the #1 most active spot, second only to the bathroom. From the kitchen, you go up 1 more level, right? 3 actual levels. I like it, right? I mean, this was 100% my own brainchild, so obviously I dig it. To the loft, and the loft is relatively big. It is larger than the living room. So the part right behind me where the bed is, you know, ignore the mattress, man. I mean, we are on the top of a mountain. If you knew what it took to get that mattress here, you'd know why it's not gone yet. But either way, so this part of the loft alone is 8 by 12, along with the top of the bathroom as well. So this was designed, right, by me to be, this section, this smaller section, would be a spare room, a child's room, what have you. Obviously, you can extend it past here and make a full-size little room, whilst the larger portion was to be the couple's space, right? You know, the adult sleeping space with all of your giant clothes and dressers and whatever. The ceiling, obviously, this is not an active space for me. I would go outside to work, and I would only come in. I only ever slept here. So this is 4 feet or less. The highest point in this loft is 4 feet high. However, I mean, so you can't stand up, and I guess that's kind of annoying, but obviously there's no reason in the world why you need a 10-foot ceiling in your bedroom. You can get up, you put your hands up, maybe not all the way, but design a place that fits. Don't waste space where you don't need it. And a sleeping loft, a specific area just for sleeping, is one of those places where you don't need to waste that extra space. So what you've seen so far, to me, as a first-time designer, seems like an awful lot to fit in just a 12 by 16 space. But there's more to come. That was only the active spaces. So like behind me is a very small loft. You're not supposed to recreate in this small area. This is only for storage, and it's only here to make the most of your space. So, storage loft, as well as 2 other spaces still to come. Oh, and so every, it's still a turnkey house. Everything, so if you see behind me, that is a 12-volt light. However, we are wiring it up for regular power. I never expect to have regular power here, but if you're in the middle of building something, never lock yourself out of a possibility early. So while the walls are open, I'll put regular power, regular breakers, regular outlets, everything, because now is the time to do it. So whilst I may never use it, it is here for the future. So can you spot the last two spaces? To me, they're really, really obvious. Those last two spaces, not technically, active spaces, are under the kitchen and under the sunroom floor. I have not yet framed out this doorway. This is not really big enough for an adult to get through. However, the space exists, and it was more than enough for Ivy to have all of her toys, and that was her room, and she just was under there and doing God knows what. But this will be framed out bigger so that it's more accessible to an adult. But that was where all of the toys went. There again, if you're just a regular couple, a regular dude, one single person, just storage, right? We used it for something other than storage, but it was designed as just an extra storage area. In tiny houses, you need all the storage possible. And that is a lot of storage. It is 3 or 3.5 feet high by 4 feet by 8 feet. So, I mean, that is, I don't know the cubic feet, but that's a lot of storage area. So that is section 1. The other one is under the kitchen, and it is where all the utilities are. So whilst this one doesn't need to be closed up, it's where all those ugly things go, like the water pump, the solar batteries, things of that nature that you don't want to see, and it's possible as a family, you don't want your child or a younger person to have access to easily. So down here is where all of our batteries are. It's where the water comes in. It's where this giant hodgepodge of 12-volt system kind of, connects. And it was also my area. This is where I put all of my personal storage stuff. So as you can tell, both of these spaces are big enough to sit up straight in. I mean, I'm not a giant, but I'm a regular sized person. In this space, I actually had a hammock hanging to where you could lay down. Part of the design process of these two storage or utility spaces was that you could sit up in them. They were large enough for a person to lay down in case you needed to house someone in these spaces. And also, since this is an off-grid house, it was very important to install windows. I did not install windows that opened. I did not install big windows. But when you're producing every single bit of your power, and not only producing it, but having to store it yourself, you need to be as responsible as possible. So one small window is going to save you a ton of power in regards to say if you need something out of these spaces during the day. So this is where the filming gets really difficult in such tiny spaces. However, I did want to at least attempt to show you. Behind me, we have our water pump. So the water comes in off of our spring system. Yes, if you've seen that spring video, it's been over a year, 0 maintenance, 0 problems, full production of an entire 3-person family's needs. But that comes up, and it comes to this 12-volt pump. This 12-volt pump has automatic shut on, automatic shut off. And I especially like this particular one because it had a little sediment filter that came with it, and that really just pushed it right over the top, right? It's almost like its own little self-contained, just a regular house's system, but it's 12 volt. Also, over here in this corner, we have our 4 batteries and our charge controller. The charge controller was donated to the project by an individual. I believe it was Kickin' Naz with a K. Either way, if you're still watching, dude, we used it, right? And Ben, that's your water pump. Either way, this is the utility area, and it is a little dark. It's a little cramped, but it all works. So I had hoped that I could avoid going under the sunroom's floor into this storage area, but really it's not going to be a full tour if I don't at least try it. So we're going to go down here, and you can see that it is roughly the same size as the understorage of the kitchen. Just doesn't have a door framed yet, so whatever. So this is the understorage of the sunroom. You can see the same type of window, just a cheap 1-foot window. It doesn't open, it's not special, but it allows in light, so you can see in this area during the day. It is roughly the same size as the room with all the wires in it. But this was Ivy's room, right? I mean, she didn't sleep here, but this was where all of her stuff was. And it really is just designed for storage. However, just like the utility room, in the design process, I purposely made it big enough so an adult, actually I'm not, an adult can lie down. So, it's big enough for a twin bed, and so is the other one. If for some reason you got to fit 12 people in a tiny house, this will do it. I've had several people ask about, doing videos on what type of lighting that I chose, and those different appliances you can run off of 12 volt. Well, I already touched on that to some degree with the water, 12 volt water pump. The lighting that I went with was actually spotlights. So this is just an outdoor 12 volt floodlight. They were crazy cheap. I think I got these for like $5. We used all of them for an entire year solid, and they're LED. They're never gonna crap out on you. They are waterproof if for some reason that matters. They don't take a lot of draw, but they put out a lot of light. Also, ceiling fans. This was off of Amazon. I'm sure some unknown contributor sent it to us, but there again, 12 volt, right? I mean, it's small, relatively quiet. Celia did mention she didn't like the noise after extended periods of time. But either way, lights, fan, water, wood stove for heat, as well as just whatever portable refrigerator you want. Actually get one with a compressor. Not one of the computer chip ones, right? There's some kind of computer chip thing where there's not actually a compressor in it. You will need to buy one with a legitimate compressor if you're going to use it as a real fridge. But either way, that's basically it. I mean, what else do you need? Portable DVD player. Never mind. Crucial. Number one thing. You're going to live off-grid. Get yourself a portable, just regular car-powered DVD player, and that's it. Right? You got your light, you got your heat, you got your power, you got your water, you got your television, and your fan. And that's it. They're all cheap, they're all easy, and none of them take a lot of power, and it's all 12 volt. So there you have it, the long overdue tiny house tour. It's not finished, it's not perfect, but we can take pride knowing that we did every tiny little bit of it was hand done with love. If you like what you saw, hit that button. If you're new to the project, hit that other button. If you want to help support the project, there are links below. Until next time, here, Steve in the Woods. And trying to minimize how much power you use for useless reasons, I put two small, well, there's a rag here, two small windows in both of these spaces.